Okay, now we are going to move on and we are going to talk about perpendicular lines. All right, so if we're writing equations of perpendicular lines, what we have to do is we have to make a connection to the slopes of these perpendicular lines. So we have somewhere to start. And so what you find is that whenever you have two lines that are perpendicular, first of all, definition of perpendicular is that they meet and form a right angle where they meet. And because they're two lines, you have four right angles where they meet. So like, for example, in this picture, if these two green lines are perpendicular, you'd have a right angle there, you'd have a right angle here, you'd have a right angle here, and a right angle here. And remember, a right angle is 90 degrees, right? And you think of examples of right angles, they're all around you. You think two walls, usually when they meet, form a right angle. Where the walls come down to meet the floor forms a right angle. And when things form a right angle, we say that they are perpendicular. They are perpendicular. And so if we have two lines that intersect, and they intersect at a right angle, we call them perpendicular. Now what's cool about those two lines is when they are perpendicular, the slopes of the lines, right, make opposite reciprocals. So the slope of non-vertical perpendicular lines are opposite reciprocals. So what that means, okay, is if I have one line, and we'll call this, supposing I have line L, all right, and we can say that line L has a slope of 2. If I have line M, and we say that it's perpendicular to L, the perpendicular sign is that little line going down and like that. It looks almost like you're playing hangman, right? So if you have that, that means that the slope of this, you would look at line L, and you would take 2, and you would take the reciprocal of 2. So that would, the reciprocal of 2 would be 1/2. And then it's the opposite reciprocal. So if it's positive, it becomes negative. So this would be negative 1/2. So what you're doing with these is you basically, you'll find the slope of the line that is perpendicular to. You'll take the reciprocal of it, and then you'll change its sign. Because that's kind of what, effectively what doing the opposite of something is changing its sign, right? The opposite of 2 is negative 2. The opposite of 4 is negative 4. The opposite of 11/7 is negative 11/7. The opposite of negative 5 is 5. So it's always the opposite of something is always changing its sign from what it is. So, so if we talk about opposite reciprocals, you're not only changing its sign, but then you're taking the reciprocal of it. All right, so let's kind of look at some basic problems of this and how this looks. So I apologize about this being small, but we're gonna start with number 13 here. All right, so what we got to figure out first of all is what is the slope of this line, right? Again, we're writing an equation and slope-intercept line for the line that passes through the given point and is perpendicular to the graph of the given point. So if it's perpendicular, that's where we want to find that slope. So our pattern of how we're going to do this is going to be the same as last time, where we're going to always start by find the slope. But then what we're going to do is once we find the slope, we're going to take the opposite reciprocal of that slope. All right? And then we're going to do all our plugging in like what we did with parallel lines and move forward. So let's just do number 13 and see what happens. All right? So first thing we do is we look at this y equals x plus 2. All right? Well, if y equals x plus 2, that is in y equals mx plus b form. That's good. And my slope is this m right here. Well, if you look at this equation right here, there's not a number in front of x. But remember that even if it doesn't look like there's a number, every variable has a coefficient of 1 if it's not listed. If it doesn't have something in front of it, its coefficient is 1. So my slope for this one is 1. All right, and now what we're going to do, so that's step 1. We found my slope. And now for step 2, I'm going to take the opposite reciprocal of m. Well, if m is 1, that means that the reciprocal is 1 as well, because if you flip 1, you get 1. 1 is unexciting that way. And then you change the sign. All right? So the next part is you change the sign, and it becomes -1. So my slope now is m is equal to -1. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and this point, and I'm going to plug it into this y equals mx plus b equation, and we're going to solve for b. So let's do that. So my y is -2, so you get -2 equals m is -1, and then x is -3. Right here, I'm kind of covering that up, sorry. And so now just simplify and solve for b. So you get -2 is equal to +3 plus b. You subtract 3 from both sides, and then you get b is equal to -5, which is awesome. That's what we want. So now I know what b is, and I know what m is. I can write this thing. So it's y equals -x minus 5. And you could write -1, but we don't do that. All right, you just leave it as -x. And that's basically how you solve these types of problems, all right, when they give you this information, all right? And so if we were going to do another problem, so let's, if we do 14, and I'm going to do this here for a reason, all right, y equals 2x minus 4. So I'm going to cut this, all right? I'm going to cut. We're going to go to this next page here. We're going to paste. All right. So again, if we're looking at another example of this, my slope for this one is 2. So I want to find the opposite reciprocal because we're looking at a perpendicular line to this, right? So the opposite reciprocal of 2, well, the reciprocal is 1/2, and then because it's positive, it becomes negative. All right? So now we're going to take that point and our new slope, and we're going to put that in this equation here. So we have -1 equals m is -1/2 times x, which is 4. I would love to figure out why this thing keeps doing this. It would just make me so happy. All right, and then plus b. All right, so -1, 1/2 times 4 is 2, and then it's negative, so you get -2 plus b. Add 2 to both sides, and you get 1 is equal to b. All right, doing the number part of this quickly so we can understand the concept part. So now I know my new slope, and I know my y-intercept. So my equation is y equals -1/2 x plus 1. So you've got your slope, which you can clearly compare this slope and this slope right here, and you can see that they're reciprocals of each other and that their signs are different. All right, so you did well. All right, in the next examples, in the next video, I'm going to just go through kind of how we do this when they give us the information in standard form.